Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, drone pilots, wherever you are, whenever you are. Today is the first lecture in a series on internet-connected drones. And I'm going to show you the goal of the lecture series, which is to get your drones on the internet. So if you go to the courses, Files, on Canvas, Advanced Topics, Internet-Connected Drones. There's a picture of the end goal, and then the very first step is configuring the Raspberry Pi and installing its operating system. So here's a picture of your 195 drone with a Raspberry Pi 02 velcroed onto the top of it, connected to the flight controller. So the goal of today's lecture is just to get the operating system installed on the Raspberry Pi. Future videos will cover how to connect it to the drone. So the Raspberry Pi architecture and software has the operating system installed on this little SD card here on the left. So we need to flash the operating system onto the SD card and then connect to the Raspberry Pi, which is the goal of today's lecture. So here's the steps that we need to do. It's quite simple. We're just going to be following the instructions on the Raspberry Pi website. So we have to get the SD card plugged into the PC. So we'll do that now. So the SD card is plugged into the PC. So you need a USB to SD card reader. So it'll look something like this. Okay, there's lots of them available. Your SD card will plug into the side of this, and then the USB will plug into your computer. So that's step one. Step two is to download the Raspbian OS flasher. Now, before I go on, let me make sure I explain to you what we're working with. I'm using Windows. You can use any computer for any operating system you want, any computer, but just to show you, I'm using a desktop Surface Pro 9. Let's see, about, just so you know what the hardware is, it shouldn't really matter. I can't find it. Anyways, the Surface Pro 9, Windows 11. Today is November 10th, 2024. And I only have the stock Microsoft applications plus a couple new ones. Adobe Acrobat, Google Chrome. I did install Mission Planner. And I installed Edge TX Companion Express LRS. Everything else is stock Windows. So I'm going to use Google Chrome because I like it better. You do you. So we want to go to Raspberry Pi Foundation website. raspberrypi.com. And we want to download the operating system. So I guess that would be under software, yeah. So we want the Raspberry Pi OS imager for Windows. We're going to download that and then run it. That will install the Raspberry Pi imager onto our computer. So we're done. So that we downloaded it. Now we need to flash the OS to the SD card. So we open up Imager. And we want to choose a device. For this drone, we're using Raspberry Pi 20W. And then we're going to choose the OS. Now, we want other because we don't want the graphical user interface. We're not going to attach a monitor. We don't want the extra overhead. So we want 64-bit light. Choose storage, and that's the SD card that you installed. Now you want to configure it so that you can log in. So we'll set the host name to Raspberry Pi Demo 195. We'll set the username to John. Well, we'll set it to my name, Peter. And then set a password. Do a secure one. And we need to configure the wireless LAN. Now you're going to be on your own LAN. So you need to figure out what the SSID is that you're going to connect your Raspberry Pi to. And then we might as well set it to US time zone. Under services, we want to enable SSH and use password authentication options. That's fine. I don't like a telemetry for privacy reasons. Now let me write down the password. And now let me make sure I explain this to you. So this is the Wi-Fi SSID that the Raspberry Pi is going to connect to. We're not using a monitor. We're doing this headless, meaning we're only going to have the power connected to the Raspberry Pi. We're not going to connect a keyboard or a monitor or a mouse because that's what's happening on the drone. So the only way to get into the Raspberry Pi is the SSH in, which means it has to be connected to the internet already before you even do anything. So during this flashing procedure, it's very important to have the wireless LAN configured. Now, if you're on the UCI mobile net, that's a different story. Right now, I'm assuming you're on your own router at home where you have the SSID and the password for that router. And write down the host name, which will prevent, that way you won't have to find the internet IP address to log into it. Okay, and now we're going to apply those. It says you're going to erase the storage. Yes, click yes. So now this can take about 10 minutes. So I'm going to fast forward through it when I post this to YouTube. Okay, so that's done. And now we can safely remove the SD card from our computer. And I'm going to plug it into the Raspberry Pi right now. And then just the SD card, nothing else is plugged into the Raspberry Pi. And all I'm going to do is power up the Raspberry Pi. So let me plug it in now, and then I'll show you what I did. So I'm plugging in the Raspberry Pi. There's a little green light that comes on saying that it is accessing the hard drive and the power is on. So if you look at we have number 2. Basically, all I'm doing is plugging it into the power port here where it says power in. Everything else is not connected except for the SD card. And now we're going to wait 10 minutes because it has to unpack the file system. We don't have a monitor attached, so we don't know how long it's going to take. So just for good measure, we'll wait 10 minutes. So I'm going to speed up the video on YouTube and make 10 minutes go fast, and then we'll move on to logging in to confirm that it worked. So back in 10 minutes. Okay, it's been 10 minutes. We probably don't need that long, but I don't know what's going on, so I wanted to give it time to unpack the files. So let's see if we can SSH in and if that worked. So SSH, username that you put in, host name that you put in. Cross fingers, could not resolve. Ugh. All right, I'm going to pause this and troubleshoot. All right, let's try again. I think I typed the wrong password, so I reflashed the SD card and then reinstalled it in the Raspberry Pi, just like we did, but I made sure the password was correct. So here we go. And it worked. So make sure you type in the right Wi-Fi password or it won't work. Okay, so here we are, and everything is working. And we're connected to the Raspberry Pi, and hopefully we can prove that we're connected to the internet. Yep, we can ping google.com. So we are, that's how you install Raspberry Pi and connect it to the internet on your local Wi-Fi network without a monitor and without a keyboard. So we'll be using this interface then to configure it for our drone in future videos. I'll see you in the next video.